Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, welcome to this week's episode of Video Ferox, where it's all cops are bastards month. That's right, we're kicking off the two-fisted, hard-hitting motherfuckers that have a passion for justice and no regard for any sort of civil rights whatsoever. We're watching movies like Blazing Magnum. So sit back and we'll roll the trailer.
Police headquarters. Person to Captain Sater, please.
Headquarters to 619. Captain Sater, come in.
Sater here, I'm busy. Okay, everybody, lean down.
Margie! Margie!
And then she passed out. Looks serious.
Call an ambulance, I'll meet you at the hospital.
I think you'd better come here.
She went from man to man, from bed to bed. She wanted everything from life, too much.
You were having a thing with my kid's sister.
That's ridiculous.
Now we know all about Louise's death, don't we?
No.
When you heard she was ill, you got the bright idea to end your problem permanently.
Who's there?
Suppose Louise and Carrie were killed because of the necklace.
Is this what you're seeking?
Yes.
How could my sister ever get involved with someone like your brother?
Someone like my brother. You're always passing judgments, aren't you, Captain?
When you stopped seeing Louise, did she start dating someone else?
No, not that I know of.
According to your sister's autopsy report, she was poisoned.
Alrighty then, that was the trailer to Strange Shadows in an Empty Room, or, depending on what region you're in, it was Blazing Magnums. And then there were a couple of other Italian names, like, it was like Tony Seta's Special 45 or something like that. Yeah. So, but the most awesome name out of the bunch is Blazing Magnum, so that's what we'll go with. It's got Martin Landau in it, who you might remember from the Harlem Globetrotters on Gilligan's Island.
Well, Stuart Whitman.
Oh, and then there was Tisa Farrow from Zombie Flesh Eaters, and a bunch of other Italian movies.
And John Saxon.
And John Saxon, who really doesn't have a hell of a lot to do in this movie.
He really phones it in.
He really, yeah.
I want to like this movie, but I also am like,
It has issues, it has flaws, but here, let me ask the question, Ian. Did you like Blazing Magnums?
I want to like it, but I don't want to hate it. ambivalent, but not.
So you'd put it as a strong meh?
Yeah, the movie has really good high moments, and then it dive bombs. It's like, no.
The movie isn't without flaws, and I think, I said it when we were down in the kitchen making dinner, was that the movie is trying to serve several masters, and it's not doing them justice.
Yeah.
All right, so kind of tepid with a higher end meh, and I'm more enthusiastic, but I would still give it a very conservative thumbs up. All right, let's get on to the spoilers then, and we'll actually tell you about the damn thing.
To serve men, it's a cookbook.
And so the movie, it opens with Tony Seda, who is this absolute two-fisted hard motherfucker cop.
Yeah.
In the style of your Dirty Harrys and your whatnots.
The movie opens with a Dirty Harry opening.
Pretty much. There's this bank robbery going on, and, you know, he's driving down the road, and all of a sudden these couple of cop cars go by, and he grabs the walkie-talkie and says, hey, what the hell's going on? Oh, yeah, there's a robbery, but don't worry about it. By the way, you've got a call coming in. Don't worry about it. I got to go stop some crime.
And his sister is basically, it's his sister who's calling him. She's basically on hold.
Meanwhile, Tony Seda, he is busy delivering all kinds of justice at the end of a Blazing Magnum to these cop robbers.
Yes. Cop robbers?
Cop robbers. Cops and robbers. Cop robbers. Bank robbers. Bank robbers. I can't fucking talk tonight.
The scene is actually very reminiscent of the Dirty Harry. Admittedly, because with Dirty Harry, he's sitting at a lunch counter eating a hot dog, and he sees in the reflection, he sees the car, and he goes and he stops the bank robbery by shooting out windows and shooting bad guys. Whereas in this one, the bad guys inadvertently drive their car into a shop.
Right. There's a little bit of a car chase, so you get a little bit of taste of action. There's the gunfight in the bank where the robbers are like, give me all your fucking money. Boom, 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 boom. And a little bit of gunplay with the cops. So,
and cop cars wrecking.
Yeah. Oh, the budget on this movie for the wrecked cars was, no, quite literally, the chase in the middle of the movie was half the budget for the movie.
Yeah.
And so this also immediately establishes the tone of, okay, we know what Detective Seda is like. We know the tone of the movie. Let's just get right into it.
Yep.
So what the sister was calling about was that she was having a little bit of rumpy-pumpy with Dr. Martin Landau.
Yes.
And she hangs up in frustration, and the boyfriend comes over and says, hey, what the hell's going on? It's like, oh yeah, I'm having some trouble with my boyfriend, my other boyfriend, because that's the boyfriend that she's talking to, is boyfriend B.
Yes.
I'm having trouble with the doctor, so I'm really pissed. And it's like, well, you want to get some payback on him? And it's like, oh, tell me more.
Oh, and the payback is righteous.
Well, the payback pretty much sets off the entire movie.
Yes.
And so they cut to this gathering of students.
Yeah, it's at a college.
At a college. And she is in attendance with the party, and all of a sudden she passes out. And they call Dr. Landau and say, hey man, you know her, you're a physician, come help her because she's got an issue.
Yeah, and he's a little like, but I'm going out for the evening. And in the background, you can see his wife putting on her earrings. She's, checking her dress. She's like expecting an evening out.
And you can totally tell the interaction between Landau and the wife that they are very much trapped in a loveless marriage.
Yes.
So Dr. Landau, he gets to the party and administers a couple of drugs, but as he's giving her the water, she's like, aha, look at me, I'm really having you on, and she starts dancing around the room.
Which, yeah, he doesn't take that well.
Unfortunately, she actually dies for real.
Yeah, it's a few minutes later, she keels over.
And of course, instantly, everybody's like, well, there's one suspect. Obviously, it's Dr. Landau. Now, the problem, of course, with this is that the movie leans into this so hard, pushing him as the red herring, that is obviously not him.
But Martin Landau, I would like to say, in regards to, like, in these scenes, and then later throughout the film, he does his job.
the chemistry between Landau and Stuart Whitman is really, really strong. They play off each other really well.
Yeah. He's got this hardness when you, in most every instance where you see him, up until when they figure out, oh, he's innocent. So they release him. But at this point, there's this tension of, you really have messed my life up. And Sata's like, look, I'm really sorry. Saxon tries to put in a little here, like, Argh. And there's that when somebody's really pissed and they do that I gotta calm down and I'm gonna walk away from this. And Landau's character, he turns to walk away and he pauses and he softens. I mean, his body language relaxes, his tone changes. He turns and says, for what it's worth, my condolences for your sister. And it's like, damn. Awesome scene.
And hell, even Stuart Whitman has that gravitas and that he's just a rough motherfucker. So, you believe that when he goes and busts into the penthouse apartment of the three transvestites, that, okay, I can totally buy him doing that.
We'll get to that.
Oh, the transvestites. Oh, boy. Detective Sata, he comes up from Ontario or wherever the fuck he was at. And he goes to the funeral of his sister, and he's like, this doesn't smell right. This is not, there's something going on here deeper. And the rest of the movie from this point on is Tony Sata investigating the crime and what happened to his sister and what the hell's going on. And by investigating the crime, I mean that he goes to a suspect and punches them until he tells them what Sata wants.
It's basically, I need you to tell me what I want. And it's weird how it goes from, I want you to tell me what I want, to chummy, here, let me get you a drink. Like, what?
Well, that's essentially what happens with the transvestites.
Yes.
So, okay, the movie, not exactly politically correct. This was like 1976, I think. So the LGBTQ community is going to be like, oh, what the fuck? But it was the era for the time. And so you have these transvestites or drag queens, or I'm not exactly sure what the hell's going on.
It's men who love to dress as women.
Exactly. And of course, they're all super, super effeminate and gay and flaming.
It sold really well, and the construction of the scene in demonstrating, here's what you're getting.
And the drag queens give as good as they get.
Which is out of character for what you usually see out of Hollywood in this era. Drag queens, transvestites, gay men always turn up as the effeminate aspect also means they fight like girls.
Oh no, these guys fight like motherfuckers.
These guys throw down.
Hell, they get to a point where they've got Sata and they're about to throw him off like a roof. And you can clearly see that it's Stuart Whitman hanging off this, probably 12 or 13 story building.
They're up there.
And it's like, and she's like whacking, they, whatever, I don't fucking know. He's whacking him, trying to get him off, and then he gets up off the ledge. It's actually a really well done. Well, all the action scenes in the thing are actually really well done.
And this location shot is really nice because it's not just high up in a 10, 12 story building. It's got a rooftop swimming pool, which is how the scene ends. But we're stepping ahead. There's one thing I want to touch upon.
The curling iron?
The curling iron.
Please, proceed.
Oh my God. So one of the gals is getting ready to do her hair. Curling iron. It's heated up.
And this is, of course, the 70s where it's this big fucking curling iron. I mean,
they're huge.
Yeah.
It comes at Whitman like it's a Sata. Comes at Sata like it's a freaking baseball bat or whatever. Sidesteps, knocks down the drag queen, picks up that curling iron, and you see him cock his arm back, cuts to a close-up of the drag queen, and you hear sizzle. Ah!
It's the sizzle that does it for me. This off-screen sizzle. You don't actually see anything.
You don't see anything, but it's like, oh my God, ow.
And then Sata chases the leader, I guess you'd call her, and chases him into the swimming pool. There's a little bit of exchange. he takes a dive into the pool, and Seda comes over, pulls him up, and then instantly, like, you flip a switch, it's congenial.
Yeah, like they're buddies.
What the fuck? You just thrashed their place, busted them up and then shoved a curling iron up the dude's ass. But now it's all good. Whatever.
This is where one of the instances where they're really high, and then it just what?
So we mentioned that this movie is kind of giallo-ish.
Yes.
And, there's more to it than just the name, The Strange Shadows in an Empty Room, which is a very giallo title. But there's this one character. She is this blind woman who was this teacher for Seda's sister.
Yeah.
And they were living together, they were roommates, and Seda's sister dies, and there's this business about a necklace that she had, and the blind woman winds up with it, and then the bad guys, whoever the bad guys are at this point, because we don't know, are trying to stalk her and get the necklace away from her.
Yeah.
And so we get scenes with, like, she's at home in her apartment, and she hears somebody come into the room. And there's, who's there? Who's there? What's going on? And there's a little bit of struggle. So that bit is very giallo-like.
I think it also adds to the accent of giallo, is that they put her living accommodations in an out-of-the-ordinary way.
And it's this kind of loft thing. And they have this one section there, like renovating or something. And so they have this little chain link waist-high fence.
Yes.
That has a, danger construction on it. And, like, the wall of this window has just, like, been removed. Of course, that's Chekhov's gun, because a little bit later, you'll notice that the fence is completely blocking it when you first see it, but then when you see it again, it's moved just a little bit so that somebody who's blind and doesn't know where they're going will go straight through the window and down 4 or 5 stories to her death.
And the whole thing of this comes about because she has come home and hears something because there's somebody in her apartment. And they get out of the apartment and she follows them. And big opening, and they do a really good job at this point of selling. Is she going to go? I'm sitting there going, holy cow, he's going to come up behind her and just shove.
It's a legitimately suspenseful moment.
Yeah. And then it cuts to students down below, and one of them happens to look up.
No, Mrs. Smith, don't stay right there. Don't move. Stop.
And she stops.
Right. The other big set piece with her is at the towards the end of the movie, where she gets scared by the villain and she runs out into the street, and she, of course, being blind, they play it up with, lots of disorientation and camera moves and, like, blurs of cars zooming past and forth. I thought that scene worked pretty decent, but you had issues.
Yes, I did. And then what it is it starts off really well, and it basically turns out, because they play it, and they play it, and they play it, and it's the same 2 cars. Both go by one way, both go by the other way, one go... And it's almost... There's one part where the editing is just right, where it looks like the cars are just driving around her. Like, no! You ruined it! You took that too far. They could have cut it sooner than they did.
To be fair, they've probably already blown their car budget on the car chase.
Which was before this. We are going to talk about.
Oh, yeah. Actually, why don't we just jump into the car chase?
Car chase. Seda is trying to track down the necklace, and he tracks it down to a fence, or he believes that this guy would know what happened to it. And the guy is like, oh shit, knows what's up, I gotta get away. So he jumps into a Ford Mustang. It's a fastback. Not slow car. These things are quick. Now, here's the thing that's silly about this scene. If anyone remembers the 70s, Buick made a car called the Skylark. It's not a fast car. It's not. It's a family 2-door or 4-door car. My grandmother had one. But it's just to see this underpowered Buick Skylark keeping up with this high-powered Ford Mustang fastback and holding its own against it. It's just like, okay, it's a cop car.
And so for the next 15 or so minutes, the chase goes on, and they hit every single trope along the way. They've got guys walking back and forth carrying a pane of glass. They've got people pushing baby carriages out into the street. They've got all the tropes.
Yeah.
And every single one of them is ticked along the way.
Yes.
And it is fucking glorious.
Yes. Normally, in car chases, when a jump is going to occur, they don't show you really what the car jumps off of. Here, they did a good job. Road construction. Huge mound of dirt.
So they hit the ramp that was actually part of the scene versus trying to hide it.
Yeah.
There's one bit where they don't do that successfully, where at the very end of the chase, where Seda finally manages to get the car flipped and rolled, and both of the cars, they're running down this big empty stretch of highway, and you can clearly see the roll ramp off to one side. But it's only for a couple of frames, it's really super fast, so only if you're looking for it, you'll see it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I was looking for it, so it's like, whatever.
Yeah.
But I'll suspend the disbelief, whatever.
So the Mustang, it ends up on its side. The Skylark ends up on its top. And one of the things that I really appreciated with the stunt work here is they get the scene, the car it on its top, and when they cut, after the car had stopped, they put Seda, the real actor, in the car upside down.
And then they dragged the car along, so you see sparks and you see the road zipping along as he's slowly coming to a halt.
And he's all, "Argh!" So it's like, I like that. I appreciate that. Because they didn't do things like that in, like, Dirty Harry.
I suppose the only flaw that I have with the car chase is that it is very choreographed.
Typically in car chases, your bad guy will maneuver and the cop has a reaction maneuver. In this car chase, every so often, both cars choreographed like they're in a ballet. They both simultaneously turn left and do 180 spins.
Or there's that scene where the fence goes down the alley and realizes a dead end, comes to a bootlegger reverse, and Seda's right in front of him, and so they're nose to nose. And Seda just starts backing up so that he's getting out of the way of the fence. It's like, okay, why are you not stopping him there? But it looks good, so I will let it stand.
Yeah, the train. Let's talk about the train.
I am a fucking sucker for car jumps as much as I am for a fucking high fall from a 14-story building.
Yes.
So here they are, they hit the dirt ramp, and they're up over this flat car of this massive train that's rolling along, and they've got the boxes full of packing peanuts stacked, 18 high. So one car blows through, and then the other one blows through, and there's peanuts everywhere.
Yeah, because the Mustang hits the boxes, and the Skylark majestically flies over everything. Aha! I will catch the bad guy.
And they even do a couple of, we have this one take and like 4 camera setup. And so you see the jump from like a couple of different angles, like anime. I'm like, okay, that makes no sense logically. That shouldn't be how the story flows, but fuck it. I like seeing the jump, so I'll let it stand.
It's a well set up stunt. Run multiple cameras to make sure we get every possible angle. And then they just decided to, fuck it, use all the footage.
And it's one of those Streets of San Francisco moments where the cars go over the hill, and so they obviously bent the frame. So it's like, okay, if we're going to destroy the cars, let's get maximum value out of destroying the cars.
Yes. This ends the same way the fight on the rooftop with the transvestites ended. Seda drags the bad guy out of the car. And suddenly they're friends. Like, what?
Seda runs around beating up every motherfucker in Ontario until he figures out what's going on.
Yes.
And what happens is that his little sister turns out to be much freakier than he anticipated. She likes the weird shit.
Yep.
And so what happened was that her and her boyfriend, they were having a threesome with this lady, and she just got out of control, and I want to steal a necklace, and I want to murder somebody. So she steals her necklace and then murders her. And the boyfriend, who's like, okay, you're out of control, baby. And so he's the one that slipped the drugs into Dr. Landau's bag.
He poisons her indirectly. The reason why is that the blind gal and this other woman have been accosted by the killer, and the other gal is stabbed to death. The blind gal gets the crap kicked out of her, and she's in the hospital. And then that's when the boyfriend, like, I gotta tidy up the loose ends, he goes to kill her, and then
all of this data comes out, and we get a glorious gunfight in a baby nursery. There's all sorts of, they're running down the corridors, and, the bad guy is grabbing people and throwing them away and throwing gurneys around and crazy shit like that. And they did set up earlier on in the movie that the bad guy knew how to fly a helicopter and a plane. So this isn't a ass pull out of nowhere, but they get to the top of the hospital and, hey, there's a helicopter here. Fuck you, Seda. I'm going to get out of here. Gets in the helicopter and he flies the fuck away.
This is over a densely populated major metropolitan city. And Seda's like, I don't give a fuck. I'm shooting the helicopter down.
Justice at any cost, man. At any cost. I'm out of stuff to say, so do you have any final thoughts there, Ian?
For all of the action sequences and the really suspenseful moments, it's a watchable film. It just, every so often, it's a record scratch. What?
It's not coherent enough to be a police procedural. It's not slick and stylish enough to be a giallo. It's not sleazy enough to be something from 42nd Street. But I think, at the end of the day, it's okay. I enjoyed it.
Watch this film if you're a completist, definitely. But just
temper your expectations.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that'll do it for Blazing Magnum. Pew, 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 pew. So we'll all catch you next week.
Yes.
Suffering from pizza cravings? Try Red Baron Pizza. Crispy crust, zesty pepperoni, sausage, mouth-watering mushroom slices. Available now at our concession stand. They say the Red Baron loved flying, but his true passion was pizza.
Well, thank you for joining me and Ian as we read Blazing Magnum, Its Rights. Next week, we're going to be watching The Rat, the Fist, and the Cynic by Umberto Lenzi. So actually going to Italy for this one. Yay! Join us here for that. And in the meantime, I want you to drop me an email. thevideonastyproject@gmail.com is the email address. And until next time, I want you to stay evil.
Something I can do for you? Yeah. I'd like directions to the nearest restaurant. Sure.